Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Helsinki for the MSEM format. I'm Caillou and today we're going to be watching the round 2 match between Herzi, who's playing Sultai Chart Control, and Augur, who's playing Black-Red Villainy. Augur's opened up with a turn 1 Dark Bargain, so just cantrips right there, and then turn 2 plays a Performer of Desire. So Augur's deck is basically like a controlling tempo-y deck which runs some of the best cheap threats in the format, as well as strong disruption and face burn. Performer of Desire is super strong, not because of its face, but because of its backside. A 4/4 flyer that also adds a considerable amount of mana and acts as a mana sink for said mana as well. Herzi's deck, in the meanwhile, is a Sultai control deck, which also has lots of ramp elements to it. The idea is you stall out the early game with good interaction, and then go over the top of them with a spell like Roll, which generates you a bunch of 3/3 elemental tokens, or a Revelation, which is basically a sorcery which you can then later cast as a creature from your graveyard. So with Herzi having both of these fetches open, I assume that means Herzi's trying to decide whether or not to A, get counter magic, or B, crack for double black and then Memento Mori. But since Herzi is cracking in response to attacks, I assume this is going to be crack for a swamp and one pain land, and then Memento Mori, the Performer of Desire. Okay, yep. So now has blue up in case of counter magic on future turns, but for now it's just going to run out the Memento Mori. So Performer of Desire, unfortunately, will not be able to flip. Augur's gonna have the turn 3 Villainy, and Villainy is one of the strongest value engines in the format, or it was at least. Its ability to machine gun down opposing win cons or burn face, while also generating card advantage off of creature debts, has made it like a super potent force in the metagame, even with the restriction to only black non-creature spells. Herzi is going to play a black non-creature spell of her own, though, running out Prying Inquiry, revealing Lucian, Performer of Desire, another Lucian, and a Strike from Shadows. Herzi's going to take one of the Lucians. I'm not sure if I agree with... I guess Lucian is like a card advantage monster that also acts as a win con. And maybe Herzi has an answer for one of them, but not the other, like has a one and done in hand. Still, I think Performer of Desire can be scarier than Lucian, if I'm being honest. And unlike double Lucian, Augur can't play both of them, because if Augur had double Lucian, because of Legendary could only play one of them, here with Performer of Desire and Lucian can play both. It looks like Augur didn't hit a 4th land, though. He's just going to crack the Dark Bargain to draw a card, and then he's going to play another Performer of Desire and then pass. Oh, but Herzi has another Prying Inquiry, so I guess... Oh, but Augur top decked another Lucian. Oh my god. Herzi's just gonna grab Lucian number 2, but if at any point Augur top decks into another land, Lucian will be coming down. Also, if Augur hits another red land, Performer of Desire is really strong to just flip as long as Herzi doesn't have an exit. So I could definitely see Augur doing that as well. So Augur is just going to play a Dark Bargain. Guess that Augur didn't hit a land. Because it's a black non-creature spell, gets to mini Helix Herzi's face. Oh, a second Dark Bargain. One more mini Helix. And this time did hit the second land. So I think is probably just going to swing with the Performer of Desire and then pump it if Herzi doesn't have effects. Could also leave... Oh, okay, so it's just going to swing for 2. I guess could also leave up the mana for cracking these Dark Bargains on end. On end, Herzi's gonna crack a clue, get in some of her own end step card advantage. And the Chitauri Restoration from Herzi. This is one of the more non-control-y cards in Herzi's deck. But it is what allows Herzi to ramp up to some of these game-ending threats. Like, I think if Herzi just drops a roll, I'm not sure that... Augur has a response. But interestingly enough, Augur is actually going to Memento Mori Herzi exiling her graveyard and then poking Herzi in the face for 2. And at this rate, Herzi might not actually be able to survive to resolve her big threat, because if Herzi doesn't have an answer for this Performer of Desire, like right now, Augur just untaps, double buffs it, flips it into Pyrus, and then Pyrus can just swing for lethal. Alternatively, can also, if Augur doesn't want to get blown out by an Exit or a Memento Mori, can just play Lucian, shock face, turn Lucian into a creature, and then swing with both Performer and Lucian. And then even if Herzi has a Memento Mori, Herzi only clings on with 2 life, and at that point, Augur just needs 1 black non-creature spell to kill Herzi. So yeah, I'm not seeing how Herzi's going to get out of this. Does have 3 mana up, so might have an Unraveling to counter a Lucian. In which case, so it's kind of a weird situation, because if Monger expects an Edict, should not go all in on the Performer of Desire, but if Monger expects Counter Magic, should go all in on the Performer of Desire. Well, I guess even if Augur expects Counter Magic, can still just run out Lucian and then have some black non-creature spells off of Dark Bargains. Okay, so he's going to crack Dark Bargain number 1, draw a card, and he's going to play a Duress on Herzi, shocks her for 2. At this point, Herzi needs 2 removal spells to be able to beat Augur here, and doesn't have it. Does have the Unraveling and 2 Fatal Edicts. But if you're a Monger, I think you just take the Unraveling, play Lucian, swing with both, Herzi Fatal Edicts, but then one of your creatures gets through, and that's enough damage. Oh, Augur is taking an Edict? Well, I guess it doesn't matter at this point, because Villainy triggers on cast, not on resolution. Augur just plays a Lucian. And no, is going straight to combat. What is Augur doing? Should have played the Lucian first. Okay, yeah, Herzi's just going to toss out the Fatal Edict, so the Performer dies. In response, Augur is going to strike from shadows their own Performer to shock Herzi for 2. Herzi can still Purge here to draw a card. And yeah, he's going to exile both Lucians from Monger's grave. And Augur's going to crack the second Dark Bargain. Did Augur hit it? No, has the Jara champion and has to pass. Augur could have won this turn, but they threw it. I don't know that it'll matter, because Herzi doesn't have any main deck life gain, if I remember right. And a single non-creature spell does kill Herzi. I don't know, maybe... Oh no, Herzi does have an Elixir, does have Elixir of Immortality's main. So could still draw an Elixir and then stave off some of Monger's face shocking, and then maybe resolve a roll. So Herzi does still have outs. So he's going to crack the clue. Digging deep now. No, but Herzi's just going to play Ares Pillar tapped and then pass. We know that she has Unraveling, but the other 2 cards are unknown. And on end, Monger cracks a Wayfarer Shrine to buff up the Jar champion. Ooh, but has Stolen Secrets, and I think that's just it. Yeah. Augur did give Herzi a little bit of room to come back there, but Herzi just didn't have the Elixir of Immortality, so we're going to a game 2. And yeah, just Villainy is so blisteringly effective if you can't answer it, because it gives you so much inevitability. And it answers like walkers and creatures like super well, which doesn't matter in the control matchup, but hey, when you can just shoot face, who needs to answer creatures and walkers? Yeah, let's check out what sideboarding might look like for these guys. So I could see bringing in Corpse Bed and Seal the Tomb, given how many of Herzi's win cons recur from the grave. Also, I don't know which matchup Explorer's Fate is for. I could see it coming in, maybe. I think the Duress is definitely coming in. Jara Champion might come in as an additional threat, but it also is just an additional removal magnet. And I think Herzi's definitely still going to be keeping in the Edicts to answer Performer of Desires. So I don't know if Jara Champion is the call. But I think Seal the Tomb, Duress, and maybe a few Explorer's Fates are cards that I could see coming in for sure. Meanwhile, on Herzi's end, I think the Stand Unassailables do so much work against Monger's deck, so I would definitely bring them in. Thought Blossoms could be good as well, but I don't know if that's where Herzi wants to be. Vitality Unbridled, once again for the life gain, is super useful, so I can see that coming in. And then Once Abandoned to be able to answer a resolved Villainy. Probably Vitality Unbridled, Once Abandoned, Stand Unassailable, I think will all come in. And then Flesh to Rot's out is my call. Okay, getting into game 2, Augur is gonna Honorless Offering for 2, just gonna draw 2, take 2. And yeah, Divination is pretty good in the control matchup. I do feel that Monger's deck, though, probably wants to drop an early threat and force Herzi to just stay answering them. So, I don't know. Like, I feel like turn 1 Jar Champ or turn 2 Performer Desire, those are like the real spicy moments. Might have sided out some of the creatures, though, in favor of Explorer's Fates, so I could see that being the reason that Augur doesn't have early plays, but still kept this hand. Meanwhile, Herzi opening up with some card selection of her own. Gonna Seek Prophecy, revealing Chart, Fungal Mire, and a Fatal Edict. So I'd probably imagine Fatal Edict is the grab here. And no, is just gonna take Chart the Vast. Okay, so that to me that signals that Herzi already has a lot of good action in her hand, and just needs something to be able to refill or draw into win cons. And yeah, there's a reason Chart the Vast is a super strong card. It's the reason that the deck is named after it. It just essentially draws you anywhere from 3 to 6 cards anytime you cast it. And Augur with the turn 3 Villainy. Herzi does not have enough mana to run out an Unraveling in response to this. And doesn't have the green mana to be able to Once Abandon this yet. Well, right as I say that, has a Lush Oasis, but is just going to pass for now. I think if Herzi had the Once Abandoned, would have just played it out when Augur was tapped, just because of how Villainy's triggers are on cast, so you want to minimize the number of triggers they get to resolve. Also could be that Herzi has an Unraveling, and wants to see if Augur plays anything that would be worth countering, and is fine with taking 1 or 2 shocks this turn. Oh god, but Villainy number 2 from Augur. Gets to poke 2 at face with the trigger. Now the question is, does Herzi have the counter magic for it? It looks like Herzi doesn't. Now Herzi's in for a world of hurt. So Herzi is up to 5 mana, but is interestingly going to Seek Prophecy here. I guess is hoping to hit a Once Abandoned and play it this turn, because otherwise I think Herzi would have just played out Chart the Vast there. So reveals 2 lands and a Memento Mori off of the Seek Prophecy, so probably Memento Mori, unless Herzi has like big win con already in hand and just needs to get to 6 lands for it. Okay, is taking the swamp. So that means maybe Herzi has a roll in hand, and then can just roll next turn, and then kill Augur. I feel like, but I feel like if Herzi had roll, would have taken the Mysterious Cataract instead to be able to search for a different land, instead of just taking a swamp, which Herzi already has. So I don't know. Or was that a regular swamp as opposed to... Yeah, okay, that was a regular swamp as opposed to a snow-covered swamp, so it would still count differently. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, roll creates a 3/3 elemental token for each differently named land you control, and snow-covered lands and regular lands have different names, so they're both basics. Augur is going to play an Explorer's Fate, just stacking up the enchantments. Pokes Herzi for 4, and then only needs 1 more spell to turn on Explorer's Fate's Crocodile token mode. But I guess does not have another black non-creature spell, is just going to play Performer of Desire and pass. But there are so many angles at which Augur is attacking Herzi right now. On end, Herzi's going to play a Fatal Edict, and then exile 2 of Augur's fetch lands to draw a card. So at least that's one angle taken care of. But then, like, yeah, Herzi just needs to kill Augur faster than Augur's killing them, and I don't know if Herzi has the cards to do it. Of course, Herzi could just go land roll and make me eat my words. But no, okay, he's just going to play Chart the Vast. Gets to grab a Once Abandoned. This will let Herzi answer one of the Villainies, or one of the Explorer's Fates. And a Stand Unassailable, which is good life gain here to stave off the onslaught. Looks like Herzi also sided into Thought Blossoms. But since Thought Blossom shares a CMC with Stand Unassailable, that stops the Chartavast train, so Herzi draws 4 off it and then now has to pass. But next turn we'll be able to untap and then shoot down one of these 3 mana enchantments with the Once Abandoned, and then stand unassailable to gain 7 life to put Herzi firmly out of almost dead range. But if Augur does end up hitting 3 non-creature spells here, can just kill Herzi. Well, there's one. Is going to Lucien, Honorless Offering, Duress. Yeah, just shoots Herzi in the face for 12, had the perfect hand, and that's it. So good games to both players, but Augur on red-black Villainy takes that convincingly on 2-0 over Herzi on Sultai Chart Control. And yeah, just, I think that's the problem. Like, Herzi's deck was just like one turn off from being able to get the interaction it needed, but Monger's deck just went blisteringly fast. And that's just the power of Villainy. Like, when all of your spells suddenly do face burn, it's really hard to come back from that. And I think Augur's deck building has found the best way to leverage that with great disruption, but also powerful, cheap threats. But yeah, I think that Augur had a bye round 1, so that puts them up 2-0. Herzi won their round 1 match, so is now 1-1. So neither of them are out of the running for the cut. So let's see how they do in future rounds. Until then, this is Caillou signing off.